Okay, so it looks like we are streaming live. Let me see if I'll mute it. Perfect. Okay, so it looks like the Xfinity race. They made. See here. Okay, so I thought qualifying was going to be canceled. Let's check in here. So the green flag for the Xfinity race was moved up to 4:30 p.m. and qualifying is right now underway. So, yeah, we still got some time. I just want to get my thoughts on the truck race from last night up because I still haven't talked about the abomination that was that race. Like seriously, um, after the race, I just turned off the TV or turned off the stream because NASCAR races where I live, NASCAR is not on my TV anymore, which is an absolute travesty. But thank goodness we're living in 2024. Streaming is king right now. So I was able to catch the truck race. Unfortunately, I was just so tired and so drained. Like truck races leave me so physically drained. It's not even funny, guys. But anyways, I didn't watch the ARCA race, but I still want to get my thoughts on the truck race out of the way while we are waiting for the Xfinity race. Um, First of all, I'm gonna say good on NASCAR for pushing up the time. Uh, Good on them for doing that because that would have been a really difficult. But I guess what people are saying it's true. The Clash is what they did with the Clash. It's actually setting a new precedent and of the good kind too. So, yeah. So let's see here. Yeah, actually, I forgot to share my stream too. So, let's check here. I want to share it. I want to share it on Twitter. I share it on Twitter. Might as well do it on my Instagram too, just because. Um, okay. Let's see. Tweet it out. Okay, while we're waiting for Xfinity to start, let's talk about whatever the truck race was last night. I'm still live, guys, just so you know. Uh, yep, let's get over it. And now let's copy that. My tweet is. Okay, let's copy that and make an Instagram story out of it. Okay, I don't have time to anything that to look like anything that much elaborate, so I'm just gonna move this up. So anyways, like I said, good on NASCAR for being proactive. It looks like this season they're not gonna let Mother Nature get the best of them, which is really good because the forecast is not looking good for the weekend. So they're trying to get everything done. If possible, I would like to see a race moved up to noon. It could eventually happen. But yeah. Okay, so the string has been shared. Okay, let's start talking about the Trucks Daytona. So the 2024 NASCAR season is officially underway. The truck race at Daytona is usually the first points race of the season. And this is counting both Cup, Xfinity, and Trucks, the three National Touring Series. I was at work. I work until 9 p.m. I work at 12 to 9 schedule, so I was at work, but I managed to watch the entirety of Stage 1 while clocking out and heading back home, so I didn't miss anything. Ty Majeski was on the pole. Johnny Sauter started outside of him on the front row, driving the 45 for the Nice Motorsports, so it's pretty good. I mean, Johnny Sauter, Nice Motorsports, they managed to get a veteran for like a couple of races. So that was pretty much a good surprise. Corey LaJoie in third, driving for Spire. Matt Mills was a pleasant surprise during qualifying. He qualified fourth. Tyler Ankrum fifth, then Nick Sanchez, Daniel Dye, Tanner Gray, Bailey Curry, and then Thad Moffitt. I almost said Brett Moffitt there, but no, it's Thad Moffitt driving that new Faction 46 truck team, qualifying 10th. Other notable drivers that also qualified throughout the rest of the field: Tony Bradinger, 13th, Cody Rohrbaugh in 14th, Lane Riggs with the new Front Row Motorsports team. A lot of expecting a lot of good things from him. He's qualifying 21st. Grant Enfinger 22nd. Ben Rhodes, he went to the rear for unapproved adjustments. He's going to be in 24th. Then Christian Eckes 25th. Corey Heim 26th. Then Stephen Parsons driving the 75 for Henderson Motorsports, the truck that usually you see Parker Kligerman making a lot of noise on. It's going to be Stephen Parsons racing at this time. He was qualified 27th. Ty Dillon 28th. And then you see guys like Brian Dawsett, Corey Roper, guys that you usually only see qualifying at Daytona, 29th and 30th. Spencer Boyd, another one of those new teams. He started 31st, and Timmy Hill 33rd. So as you can see, some of the bigger names like Eckes, Heim, Enfinger, Rhodes, of course, starting from the back. They're going to be starting like deep in the field. The only notable drivers that failed to qualify, there were 4 drivers that failed to qualify, but the 2 notable names, Clay Greenfield and Jennifer Jo Cobb. Now they're 2 drivers that are like, usually only see them qualifying at Daytona nowadays. So I was cautiously optimistic for this race because the last time we saw the Truck Series action was an absolute disaster. I don't even want to remember that 2023 championship race at Phoenix was something we would like to forget. And unfortunately, it didn't even take 6 laps for the Truck Series to pick up where it left off, with a big crash and tons of drivers scrambling instead of hitting the brakes. I'm serious. That first accident, it looked like ARCA brakes out there. Christian Eckes, it all started with a Christian Eckes push on Matt Crafton, which triggered a chain reaction. Jake Garcia, Ty Dillon, Friesen, Sanchez, Lane Riggs, Tanner Gray, Enfinger, Thad Moffitt, Roger Caruth, they were among those involved. Moffitt and Ty Dillon with the most damage after, like I said, ARCA brakes. Thad Moffitt just ARCA braked into Ty Dillon, who was spinning in front of him. Both were early DNFs, also with Lane Riggs, also with the DNF due to the stupid DVP rule. But anyways, Ty Majeski and Johnny Sauter, they led the early stages of the stage 1 that didn't feature much action, unfortunately. Because, again, the aforementioned big wreck on lap 6 and then a spin on lap 16 by Lawless Allen due to a flat right rear tire. Because of that, stage 1 ended on a 1-lap shootout, and unfortunately that will be like the theme for most of the race. Half of the race was run under green, the other half was run under yellow. I don't think there was a green flag run that lasted like more than 10 laps. And the average green flag run, I bet you the average green flag run was like less than 5 laps, because it was a doozy. It was frustrating to watch this race. So, anyways, Johnny Sauter won the stage. Bailey Curry, Ty Majeski, Ankrum, Taylor Gray were the top 5, with Brett Holmes, Jack Wood, Christian Eckes, Dean Thompson, and Corey Heim rounding out the top 10 for stage points. And with so many cautions in the first 2 stages, there were plenty of opportunities for drivers to, pit for fuel, play around with their fuel strategy. Corey LaJoie and Matt Mills were among those who pitted during the first caution. More so, in the case of Matt Mills, he got front end damage early on, not as much for fuel, but more to like repair damage to the front end. And this was before the lap 6 accident. I noted that he was already falling off the draft due to, getting his hood lights crunched up. He got an uncontrolled tire penalty too during that pit stop, so just like that, he got sent to the back. A promising run just complicated itself just like that. Anyways, Daniel Dye, Nick Sanchez, Roger Caruth, Cody Rohrbaugh, and Corey Heim. Those were the guys that pitted during the second caution. Most of the takers happened during the stage break, however. Drivers usually pit during stage break because they know that's like a guaranteed caution. They usually wait it out until then. So because of that, most of the takers came during the stage break. The only guys that stayed out were Ankrum, Ty Majeski, Christian Eckes, Corey Heim, Ben Rhodes, Tony Breininger, Corey LaJoy. I'm just listing the notable names that stayed out. It was like honestly half the field who pitted. But Empfinger, Crafton, Daniel Dye, Roger Caruth, Nick Sanchez, and Matt Mills, they all stayed out. Then we go to stage 2, and it's more of the same. Majeski fighting it out with a Chevrolet driver, this time being Tyler Ankrum, who has help from his teammate Christian Eckes for most of the run. And this was one of the longer green flag runs during the race. Now that I think about it, I don't know, but I don't know if this was like a 10-lap green flag run. I think it was. But even if it wasn't, that was like the longest one of, if not the longest, green flag rounds of the entire race. Unfortunately, got halted by a caution for debris. Out of all things that could happen, a tire carcass sitting there as debris on the apron from Stuart Friesen's truck. And just like in stage 1, there were some takers on pit road during this caution. Bailey Curry, Dean Thompson, Johnny Sauter, the two Gray brothers, Breidinger, Matt Mills again, Brett Holmes, Friesen, of course. Johnny Sauter got penalized for getting his man over the wall too soon, and Matt Mills with another penalty too. This was an improper driver assist penalty. I don't know what that means. Maybe it was driver pushing another driver to pit road. Maybe it's pretty hard because the NASCAR rulebook he has a lot of like lesser known rules that they only now you realize when they get enforced, you realize that they exist. So whatever that is, Mills got another penalty. That's what I want you to get the gist of it. This was a pretty lengthy yellow too. It lasted until 3 laps left in the stage. And as soon as the race goes green, it ends. It gets under yellow again. The race this time gets interrupted by a light mist because it's not a NASCAR race without some rain. Tyler Ankrum, he took the stage win as the entire field came down to pit road and the race was stopped. Christian Eckes, Matt Crafton, Daniel Dye, Ben Rhodes, Majeski, LaJoy, Enfinger, Sanchez, and Corey Heim. That was the top 10 for stage 2. And after a short 7-minute red flag, the race resumed. Now the race is official now because the NASCAR rules state that the race goes official after 50% of the race is completed or after the stage break, whichever happens first. Which again, in my opinion, it's one of the rules that I like actually with stages. As soon as the race resumes, however, most of the field pits again as usual during the stage break. Only a handful of guys stay out this time. Brett Holmes, Bailey Curry, Stuart Friesen. Ty Majeski also gets penalized for men over the wall too soon. And then we go to stage 3. Brett Holmes and Tanner Gray, they fight for the lead, but a hard crash from Keith McGee off turn 4 brings out what is already the 6th caution of the race, and we haven't even reached 50% of the distance yet, and we already have 6 cautions. And if you looked at the replay, and I am so thankful that Fox is actually making a better effort to give us more insight on what happened to the drivers, even if the footage is very low quality compared to what we usually expect from 2024. But Keith McGee, he did not get loose. It was more like a mechanical failure off turn 4 heading into the tri-oval that caused the car to veer to the right. It sent him into the wall really hard. Again, thank goodness for safer barriers because that was a pretty hard leg. I'm pretty sure the tires, they lifted off the ground. Then Corey LaJoy, Nick Sanchez, Corey Roper, Ty Majeski, and Timmy Hill, they were among those who pitted during this caution to top off fuel. As usual, during these cautions, there's always going to be some takers on pit road. And then on the restart, this is where one of my favorite parts of the race, or one of the parts that I enjoyed the most about this race. They finally go 3 wide. Corey LaJoy, Nick Sanchez, and Ben Rhodes managed to make the way outside lane, a third line way outside. That only lasted a couple of laps, but at least they didn't wreck. So that was a win. What was not a win was the wreck that happened during commercials. Second time this has happened already. It already happened yesterday during the duel, so I'm keeping track of that already. But this time happened due to Brett Holmes getting loose off of turn 4 and spinning out while leading the race. And Bailey Curry also spun out behind him while he was running third, and he hit the inside wall on the left side with the left side of the car. So, or the truck, I always say car even though it's a truck series. Vehicle, it would be more like the appropriate word. But he hit the wall in the inside wall on the left side of the truck. He got some damage there. And this was a common trend all race long. Like, the trucks were just loose as hell all race long. The driving was sloppy, especially coming off turns 2 and 4. This was the main reason why the outside lane didn't work as much compared to the dual races last night, even though most of the cars getting loose or trucks getting loose happened on the inside lane. And the general inexperience of the field did not help matters either. Like, both of these factors created this wreckfest of a race. Just, young drivers not knowing any better, wanting to get out front, pushing the issue aggressively. And they just end up, creating this caution after caution after caution. Anyways, during this caution, there were a lot more takers this time around. Grant Enfinger, Ben Rhodes, Eckes, Ankrum, Cody Rohrbaugh, Jack Wood, Timmy Hill again, Roger Carruth, Stuart Friesen, Chase Purdy. So those were the takers during this caution. Then in the ensuing restart, the third line once again comes alive, this time led by Ben Rhodes again, with help from Christian Eckes. And this surge in momentum takes both of them to the top 2. Or at the very least until Johnny Sauter comes back and takes the lead from them, with help from Tyler Ankrum on the outside. And at this point, this is where the race just basically ended from Rhodes. Like, the moment he lost the lead, it's just like the racing gods just made sure that Ben Rhodes would not win this race. As soon as Johnny Sauter got the lead, a hard push from Chase Purdy on Tyler Ankrum right behind him. It sent the 18 into the 99. Ben Rhodes ended with a huge tire rub on the on the right side. He pitted for 2 tires, but while getting put a lap down by the lead draft in turn 3, the tire goes flat and he wrecks out. With Tanner Gray, Timmy Hill, and Tony Breidinger also involved. It was a pretty minor wreck, so gotta give it. I gotta give it to Ben Rhodes. He tried to get out of the way. I know some people were giving him shit on social media that he should not push the issue if he knew the tire was almost getting flat. But I'm pretty impressed that Ben Rhodes, he managed to keep the car straight for as long as he did. And also, kudos to the rest of the field, because that was a recipe for disaster right there. But only 4 cars involved, and none of them, outside of Ben Rhodes, Timmy Hill, Breidinger, no one else DNF'd outside of Ben Rhodes. So overall, it was pretty controlled chaos, if you could say that. In the middle of that scramble too, Corey LaJoie, he took the lead. He emerged from the lead. Sauter, Eckes, and Purdy were fighting for the lead during that scramble. During this caution, there were not any notable takers, and this was a trend that you would see late in the race, that less drivers will be pitting for fuel, because earlier in the race it was a lot of drivers were playing around with their fuel strategy because they were not yet inside the fuel window. But now with 30 laps to go and everyone topping off fuel, the only drivers that were not that were pitting were guys that they were topping off fuel in case there was a potential overtime. So there are not that many notable takers on pit road anymore, especially on these closing laps. It's just racing to the end now. Only Roger Carruth, Stuart Friesen, Corey Heim, Corey Roper, of course Timmy Hill because he was involved in that accident, and Cody Rohrbaugh were the last few takers. And after that Ben Rhodes accident, things would just get even messier from there, because Christian Eckes would get spun after an aggressive push from Corey LaJoie off of turn 4. Dean Thompson, Johnny Sauter, and Stephen Parsons were collected. And then, on the very next restart, Dean Thompson got into it again, this time with his teammate for the race, Tony Breidinger. after Mason Massey had an issue in front of them. And I gotta say, that was a great wreck avoidance by Stuart Friesen too. Friesen had a very, very eventful day, or very eventful night, because the race was last night. But yeah, this race was so messy. The average green flag run, like I said, was less than 5 laps, or at the very least, I'm pretty sure it was less than 5 laps. If this is how the rest of the season is going to play out, I'm not looking forward to it. And again, this race was held before the ARCA race, because ARCA, they were supposed to race on Saturday, but due to the threat of rain on Saturday, they made the decision to move it up to almost midnight, or depending on when the truck race ended. Of course, the truck race, with the amount of cautions and the fact that, spoiler warning, it also went to overtime. The ARCA race, it started later than the usual start time. The projected start time was like 10:30, but then because the truck race, so many cautions, NASCAR decided, yeah, we're starting the race immediately after ARCA ends, whenever that is. So after the truck race, we had ARCA at midnight. It was a great decision by NASCAR, sure, but after what I saw from the truck race, knowing that we would have to deal with ARCA next, it would just go downhill from there. And I'm not going to be talking about the ARCA race because I just didn't watch it. I did not want to watch it after what I saw from the truck race. But when I woke up this morning and look at the social media tweets from midnight racing at ARCA, it was just more of the same of the truck race. So I'm just glad I just turned off the stream and went to record my video on the duels last night. So anyways, we got 10 laps to go at this point, and things pick up a bit again. This time we have LaJoie and Rajah Caruth versus Nick Sanchez and Taylor Gray. The two Spire cars get the jump on the restart, but Sanchez quickly retakes the lead and then jumps to the outside with help from Taylor Gray. But after retaking the lead, he goes to the outside with the Spire cars, but he almost gets turned around by Rajah Caruth entering turn 1. Fortunately, he saves it, and he also keeps the lead as well. Like, I am so impressed by how Nick Sanchez, it was unbelievable. I thought it was going to be a big wreck once Caruth pushed him into the corner because, as you guys know, pushing in the corners, or like bomb drafting in the corners is a big no-no on super speedways. You should know better than to only push on straightaways. On the corners, you can't do that. But still, the fact that Sanchez kept it straight and he also held the lead, it was pretty amazing. So no caution for that at the very least, because the caution, there was a caution, but it happened because of an accident behind them. Tyler Ankrum spinning off of a push from Chase Purdy, and Purdy is collecting that crash. He is out of the race. He was like a DNF. I believe he got damage from splitter digging into the grass and causing damage. His car was on fire too, so not good. Christian Eckes, Ty Majeski, and again Timmy Hill involved in that wreck. And now that I think about it, a lot of the guys, there were not that many DNFs for the amount of cautions that there were. There were not that many DNFs, but a lot of drivers were involved in like spins and stuff like that. A lot of guys had eventful days. I can think off the top of my head: Matt Mills, Stuart Friesen, Timmy Hill as well, been involved in 2 wrecks. Been involved in at least 2 wrecks at the very least. And that last caution, it took us to the dreaded overtime period. And at this point, I was like fearing the worst. I was thinking, yeah, we're going to overtime. We're sitting for at least, knowing how this race has gone, we're sitting around for at least 1 or 2 more hours. This race is gonna never end. 2 to 3 more cautions, at the very least a red flag. But that's not what happened. The field actually kept it clean all the way to the white flag, which, good. The race ended on just 1 overtime attempt. And then as soon as the field takes the white flag, a massive crash in the backstretch ends the race under a record-breaking 12 caution at Daytona, which is honestly just fitting. This wreck happened because Rajah Caruth moved up. It looked like he tried to squeeze in between Corey Heim and Jack Wood. Some people tried to, say that Corey LaJoie pushed them, but no, Corey LaJoie did not push them. Rajah Caruth moved up. Whether it was because he got tired or because he tried to squeeze in between Corey Heim and Jack Wood to give Jack Wood a push. Um, Anyways, he ended up spinning the 91. Taylor Gray is collected. And the 17 truck flips over in a very similar fashion to the way Crafton flipped over in 2017. And literally, like, everybody else is collected. Very few cars walked away from that unscathed, so I'm not even going to bother, like, listing up the names. Nick Sanchez, he was ahead of that, though. And he came back to the line to win his first career truck race. Happy for Nick Sanchez. He's one of my drivers one of my favorite drivers to watch in the Truck Series. But I was more glad that this race was over. I literally thought when the race got to overtime, we would see 2 to 3 more cautions and maybe another red flag. But that still doesn't excuse the sloppy racing, though. I get the trucks were loose, like the handling matter a lot, but under those circumstances, you would not press the issue. Yet that's what a lot of the young drivers did, and hopefully they learned a thing or two from that. I said hopefully because at this point, my expectations for the Truck Series are just down the gutter. And for as bad as the Truck Series has been, ARCA is still even worse. So, and we had the ARCA race next, so it just went downhill from there, and it did. Also, I just wanted to point out something. Where is all this Rajah Caruth slander coming from? Like, I understand, yes, he caused the last lap crash and the replays. They made it seem like he made an egregious move. Like, was it a bad move? Yes. Yes, it was a bad move. Hell, even Bubba Wallace went down to have a talk with him, and not the nice kind of talk. Bubba was like taking him aside, away from the cameras. He was like telling him, dude, you can't do that. Like, I don't read lips, but the body language, it wasn't very cordial. Of course, eventually they patched things up and they ended up with a handshake and a hug. But the first attempt at a handshake from Rajah Caruth, Bubba didn't give him a hand. He just told him, bro, you can't do that. Or at the very least, that's what it seemed like. But no, it was a mistake by Rajah Caruth, yes. But it was not egregious. And besides, you're acting like half the field wasn't driving slop in the entire race. You guys cannot blame this on just one driver. If you're going to blame Rajah Caruth for that, might as well blame that his teammate for the race, Corey LaJoie. He had more than his fair share of bad moves that led into wrecks, as well as a few other close calls. I believe he made a block on Johnny Sauter. I believe this was when the Brett Holmes accident happened. I don't know. There were too many cautions that I cannot even point out exactly when. But I know he made a block on Johnny Sauter that was pretty bad. Stacked up the entire outside lane at one point. And also, the push on Christian Eckes off of turn 4 that caused the accident that involved Stefan Parsons. And Corey LaJoie is a Cup driver. He should know better. So if you're going to blame Rajah Caruth for the last lap accident, might as well blame the rest of the field, including Corey LaJoie. I remember back in 2000, and this is really sad that I'm talking about the Truck Series like this, because I remember back in 2020, the consensus was, I love the Truck Series. It was trending. I can't believe I'm saying this, but the Truck Series needs some veteran drivers back. And, not necessarily Cup drivers dropping down like Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex, Keselowski, Logano. Removing the restrictions on the Cup drivers in the Truck Series would be nice. I sure as hell wouldn't be opposed to that. And you already know me, guys, on that stance. I have never cared about Cup drivers racing in Xfinity or the Truck Series. I've never cared about that. I sure as hell wouldn't be opposed to seeing more Cup drivers dropping down. I know Kyle Busch is going to be racing a few races for Spire, like he did with KBM. But some teams, they need to start extending some offers, even if they're like part-time offers or one-race deal offers, to the older veterans to come and race for them. And I'm not talking about, Ron Hornaday, Mike Skinner, Jack Sprague, Todd Bodine. I'm not talking about those guys. I'm talking about some guys that are like more recently retired, like less than 10 years retired. Greg Biffle, Kurt Busch, Carl Edwards. Hell, even Kevin Harvick or even Ari Almirola would work out really well. Would it fix the Truck Series overnight? No. But, having those veterans running will help give those younger drivers some, like, real guidance. And as we all know, everything starts with the drivers. Because, yeah, the trucks were loose. You can say whatever you want about the trucks and the handling. But we would not have had the high number of cautions we had. This race wouldn't be so messy if these young drivers did not press the issue and they made these aggressive pushes as much as they did, knowing that the other guys, the other trucks, are as unstable as they are. But anyways, that's just my 2 cents on this whole situation. Nick Sanchez wins the race. Some final thoughts on the race. Nick Sanchez, I said at the beginning of the season, watch out for Nick Sanchez. He could make some noise. I bought a lot of stock in this guy having a sophomore jump, and look at that. His season is off to a good start. As for the Truck Series overall, I'm not looking forward to it, but it's gonna be a grind looking forward. Just watching, sitting around truck race and watching a race. But anyways, Corey Heim also finished second. Raja Karuv in third. I believe those were like the only 3 guys that made it out unscathed. Brett Holmes, the rest of the field was like NASCAR just had to, review timing and scoring to determine the rest of the field. But the top 3, Nick Sanchez, Corey Heim, Raja Karuv, they walked away unscathed. They were the only 3 guys that like made it back to the finish line, that were like ahead of the crash on that final lap. Like everybody else was just scrambling to get to the finish line. Brett Holmes in 4th, Spencer Boyd 5th, Stephen Parsons finished 6th, Matt Crafton was scored 7th, Timmy Hill 8th, Brian Josat 9th, Christian Eckes 10th. Like I said, the finishing order it's very jumbled up because of that last lap crash. So you can see like Brian Dossat, Timmy Hill, Stephen Parsons, Spencer Boyd, Brett Holmes getting top 10s, getting good days out of it. Tyler Ankrum, he finished 11th. Jason White finished 12th. Bailey Curry in 13th. Stuart Friesen had a very eventful day. He finished 14th. Ty Majeski, the pole sitter, 16th. Corey LaJoie finished 20th after being involved in the accident. Daniel Dye in 21st. I believe, Daniel Dye with, Mr. Onboard reporter, onboard camera guy for Michael Waltrip. You can say Michael Waltrip's favorite driver. He got the moment on the last lap where he's on board. He hit Taylor Gray's car and sent him upside down. Like, that was an amazing... That was an amazing onboard. I'm going to say. One of Daniel Dye's better onboards of his entire career was that. Corey Roper, 22nd. Cody Rohrbaugh, 23rd, after being involved in that last lap crash. Dean Thompson, 24th. Matt Mills, 26th. Again, a very eventful day for him. Tony Bredinger, 27th. Chase Birdie, 28th. Johnny Sauter, 29th. He was one of the guys, if not the guy, to beat. It was pretty much either him, Eckes, or Nick Sanchez. I guess you could say Ben Rhodes there too, but early on it looked like Johnny Sauter had the car to beat. I'm pretty sure he led the most laps too. It's pretty much a shame he got involved in that accident, that bad push from LaJoie that turned Christian Eckes into Stephen Parsons, and Sauter also got collected in the middle of that. Ben Rhodes, 2-time defending series champion, finishes 30th after the whole incident with Tyler Ankrum that caught him a tire. Tire goes flat, spins out, and wrecks out. Then Lane Riggs 33rd due to the DVP. Jake Garcia also DNF'd. I thought Jake Garcia went all the way until the last lap. I believe he was caught up in there, but no. Jake Garcia actually also got involved in he actually also DNF'd in the lap 6 wreck in the first caution. I know he had some damage, but I didn't know it was too severe. So, oof. So yeah, count that up as an early DNF there too. And of course, Ty Dillon and Thad Moffitt, early DNFs as well. So anyways, you will see that most of the DNF, most of the DNFs happened during the last lap. But up until then, there were like 27 cars running, coming to that last overtime period. Again, like I said, for the amount of cautions we had, we didn't have that many DNFs. Like, we had like 27 trucks coming to the white flag. Of course, that number trimmed down by the time we made it back to the checker flag. But again, like I said, watch out for Nick Sanchez, and this truck season is going to be a grind. Now I guess all that's left is just sit back and watch what's going to happen with the Xfinity race. I know like qualifying is underway. Let's see. Matter of fact, let's see what's with Bob Pockrass here. What's going on with Bob Pockrass here? Let's see. Okay, so qualifying is already over. And Jesse Love is going to be on the pole for the Xfinity race. Holy. Okay, that was actually surprising. I did not expect that. Uh, and yeah, it was actually single round qualifying, just like the good old days. Everyone makes a lap, fastest guy wins the pole. Only single round qualifying, like, in my opinion, like it should be. Jesse Love is on the pole. Huh. Like, I knew RCR was going to be on the pole for Xfinity, but... I knew RCR was going to be on the pole for Xfinity, but holy shit, man. Holy shit, man. I did not expect Jesse Love on the pole, like on his first race with RCR. I expected more like Austin Hill to be the torchbearer for RCR, but hey, RCR always cooking on super speedways. I guess I'm just gonna end the stream now because if I keep talking, I'm just gonna end up like live streaming my thoughts on the Xfinity race, and I just want to save my thoughts for a later for tonight if we even get the Xfinity race going. So, anyways, thanks for watching, and let's see if we can get this Xfinity race up and running now. Peace out.